Welcome to CSI Statesville.
Welcome to Front and Center, the podcast that pulls back the curtain on government operations, offering you an exclusive glimpse into the inner workings of the city of Statesville.
Welcome to Front and Center. I'm here with my fabulous co-host, Nikayla Griffin.
Hello.
And our awesome Captain John Galliher from the Statesville Police Department. Welcome. We're glad to have you here on our show today.
Thank you for having me.
Glad that you're going to be giving us a behind the scenes of investigations for CSI Statesville. So, like I said, very glad you're here. Glad to be able to talk to you, get some information out to our residents about what investigations is all about.
Sure.
So, first, give me your background. What do you do? I mean, how'd you get here?
So I'm a lifelong resident of Statesville. Started here at the department in 2010. Worked on the road for 5 years. When I went in 2015, I went to investigations, worked that for about 4.5 years, got lucky enough to make sergeant in 2019, went back to the road for a couple years, and then I had the opportunity to move over to community services. That's something I didn't have in my wheelhouse, something I'd never done before, so really wanted to explore that, enjoyed that. I did that for about 2 years. In 2022, I got the call that I'd been promoted to captain. Stayed over the Special Operations Division, which had community services in it, as well as traffic and the SROs. And then early this year, Chief called me and asked me if I would take over the Criminal Investigations Division. And of course I said, yeah, I'd be willing to come back home. So,
Is this where you're happiest at, you think?
I've enjoyed it all.
I met you under community services because I do a lot with that group, so I do miss you there, but you've been doing an awesome job of investigations. Just glad that they have you back where you love to be.
Well, I enjoy it. I don't enjoy any one thing more than the other. For me, it's all about mentoring and leadership. That's kind of where my heart is. That's
Gotcha.
Anywhere I can do that, anywhere I can fit in and do that is kind of that's
Which
where I
explains why you've risen through the ranks as fast as you have. So congratulations.
been very lucky and very blessed,
Yes.
and I
Yes.
love my agency, and I'm glad to be here.
Awesome.
He was a great captain. I'm telling you.
I know. I miss him being there. Love you, Sam.
Yeah.
But miss you, John.
Yeah, I listen. Yeah, I don't want to cry, so I'm going to keep it moving. So what are the primary responsibilities of the Investigations Division with the Statesville Police Department?
Sure. So really, in a nutshell, we just kind of pick up where patrol leaves off. You know, a lot of times they have cases that are time consuming or require a special skill set that they're not going to have the time to do because they're moving from call to call, and if they get hung up on those things, calls are going unanswered. So investigations kind of takes over from there, and we have different training and different things, and we just have a lot of extra time to really delve into these cases and make sure that they're done the right way, and then follow them to conclusion in the court system. So that's in a nutshell, that's what we do.
Right. Yeah, great.
How are your divisions structured? I mean, how many divisions are you over? I mean, give me a breakdown.
I'm over 3. I also have the narcotics division, but the criminal investigations division or the investigations division is really comprised of 2 different things. We have the CID portion, which is they handle all the general crimes. That's 7 investigators and a sergeant. They handle property crimes, domestics, sexual assaults, frauds, any of the generalized crime.
Right.
That is what they do. And then we have the VCU, which is the Violent Crime Unit. Okay. That is 2 investigators and a sergeant, and they handle all of the violent violent crimes against persons and our homicides.
Okay.
So that's just kind of the general structure right now.
That gives us a breakdown of your cases that you handle. Y'all are busy.
Very much so.
I mean,
Very
not
much
saying
so.
that we're crime-ridden or anything, but I mean, that's a lot of work for a small group that you have. I mean,
It is, and I've got some great investigators. I've got some young investigators that just started. I've got some that have 26 years of experience. So we kind of run the gamut. We've got some great folks in place, some that are on their way out, some that are on their way in. So it's a really great group.
They are. So without revealing any sensitive details, can you discuss a challenging case that you guys had to handle in the department recently?
A challenging case?
Yeah.
I don't really want to talk about a specific case. It's always tough to not reveal things when you're kind of in the know of it. But I'll tell you, for us, it's always the homicides that are the toughest, especially the young ones. We have to deal with so much of it. We deal with the loss of life and watching the family go through that. Yes. We deal with the visuals that we have to see. You're trying to figure out what happened. You're trying to hold those people accountable. You're trying to put a case together, and you're trying to deliver some sense of closure and justice.
For them.
And unfortunately for us, a lot of times, I won't say a lot of times, but unfortunately sometimes for us, that's just not the way it happens. And we
Absolutely.
can't do that. And we take that home with us. It's very frustrating. We don't ever want to leave somebody hanging.
Right.
So that's kind of the challenging aspect of it. You can do a perfect investigation ultimately and the evidence not be there or the prosecution not be there in order to really to do that case justice.
Right. Thank you.
So you were talking about challenges for your team personally, and I understand that has to be hard because you don't have answers, and you don't have answers to give the families of the victim. What do you think the biggest challenges are that your team your investigative team faces when they're looking at these crimes?
I always say that investigating crimes it's like putting a puzzle together, and you're not sure how many pieces are in it or even what the overall picture looks like. You got to process the scene. You got to talk to witnesses. Utilize some of this technology that the city's invested in. Write court order search warrants, and those things take time, and it's very complicated. I think the media's kind of made it seem like these things happen day in, day out, and cases get solved in weeks.
And joking about CSI, I mean, we see these shows on TV, and it looks like it's very easy.
Right.
In an hour, they're solving crimes.
Well, you can
during the
if
show.
you have the time to cut it all down. If you can edit the 2 weeks that you were waiting on this or that.
Yes.
So you had to drive to Spartanburg, South Carolina to talk to this one person. It's a very time consuming thing, and it's complicated. And sometimes maybe somebody's just not ready to talk yet.
Right.
Or perhaps this investigative technique doesn't exist yet. And you see that a lot in cold cases.
Never thought about that.
So there's just things that take time. They're very, very time consuming, and they are very, very complicated. And sometimes they're expensive, or they're hard to reach, or there's a backlog. So a lot of that is just, we want to get it done. We'd love to solve cases the same day. You hand somebody a case, they hand it back to you with a warrant. And unfortunately, that's just not the way that it works.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, what role can the community play with assisting the department, and how can the citizens help you guys?
Oh, I got this one.
Oh.
See something, say something.
That's true.
Yeah, you're not wrong. A lot of the biggest thing for us is cooperation and information. These communities, your neighbors and your areas better than we're ever going to know them. There's 92 of us, and there's 26.2 square miles of the city.
Yes.
There's just it's a really big area. So, and when we're needing to locate someone or we're trying to identify them, a lot of times it's the community that comes and says, "Hey, I worked with that person. I know them. They live 3 streets down." Whatever the case may be, but that's been a very, very beneficial relationship with us, releasing things onto Facebook and asking for help, and the community's responded pretty well. So it's a partnership that we enjoy. It's a partnership that's been very beneficial to us, and one that we want to keep up. So.
Absolutely.
And this can always be done anonymously.
Right.
I mean,
Absolutely.
You don't have to
No, we
tell.
don't. We don't.
You can
We just
call
need to
it
know who
in.
they
Yeah,
are.
Just give
If
us
they
the
took something
information.
from here or they were involved in this, if you know who they are, that's all we need to know.
That could be one piece of that puzzle to get you to the next step.
To get somebody
that's
some
pretty-
justice. Yep.
Gotcha.
Great.
All right, so this is a big one. And I know that we had an investigator that was shot recently, so this one's tough for us.
Sure.
How do you work with other law enforcement agencies and organizations in joint investigations?
Right. So, we have really good relationships with our local agencies when the need arises. We can call on them, and they're willing to help. Recently we had a situation out at Larkin where we called Rowan, and that's not what I would consider a local agency, but they responded to the call immediately. We have great relationships with our local agencies. But internally, we also have a lot of federal task force positions.
Right.
The one that you're speaking about, we had a Marshals Task Force. We've had Homeland Security. We've had one from the ATF before.
Wow.
We have a fantastic relationship with one of our local agents of the State Bureau of Investigation, the SBI. And anytime we call on those folks, they come immediately. But the best thing about those relationships is we provide help to them, and they turn around and provide help to us. And a lot of times that help from them is in the access of resources or something.
Something maybe you guys don't have.
Right. We don't
Gotcha.
have, and we can't really argue that we need to spend $1 million on this piece of equipment when we might only use it once or twice a year.
Right.
But they have access to it, and they can get it here in 2 hours.
That makes sense.
So it's a very beneficial relationship for us to have access to resources that are a bit out of our reach budgetarily, or that we can't necessarily argue we need, but we have them through other ways. So it's been very good for us.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's really good. So, how does the department collect evidence and hold on to the forensic evidence from a crime scene?
Okay. So all of our investigators, the moment they're promoted, we send them to a basic crime scene academy class. It just kind of goes all over that generalistically. So you have, the way that they process, the way that they collect, the way that they get this. And my sergeant, Sergeant Cleary and Sergeant Wolf, both of them make sure that all of our investigators are outfitted. We've got a new investigator right now that we're trying to go back and get all of that stuff for.
Okay, great.
But they work together as a team. They do the best that they can, especially with the training they've got. And as they progress, we try to send them to more advanced training. Hey, here's the foundation, but perhaps they show an interest in this niche or this niche, and we make sure that we try to facilitate that and send them to that. And if they go to that training and they bring back a technique that maybe it's been a while since I've been to those kinds. If they bring back something that is new, cutting edge, if it's something we like, we'll incorporate it. Just, we're always trying to be on the cutting edge of making sure that we're doing the right thing.
That's awesome.
And things change all the time.
Every
They
day.
come up with new stuff constantly.
Every day.
Yeah.
You got to stay up on it.
All right, so this is the big one.
Okay.
Can you explain the process of submitting this forensics to like a state lab or do you guys pay a lab? How does this work? Because I know we don't do this in-house. We don't have people that can look under microscopes and do all this crazy stuff that they're doing, run DNA tests. I mean, what's going on behind the scenes?
So the process of it's actually very simple. Once we collect it, we have in-house evidence storage, and that's one of the main driving reasons behind us needing to talk about building a new police department.
Right.
We're out of evidence storage. We have to maintain these things for a certain amount of time. So once it's stored, it's secure. It's only our evidence techs and the chief of police ever have access to it. And
Okay.
He never uses it. That's for an audit situation, but our evidence techs hold it, so it's secure. We fill out the necessary forms like anything else. They're called SBI 5s, and we send them off to the state lab. Either our evidence techs drive them or we send a secure courier service. And then we just basically...
Wow, really? You drive it or sit? I thought you just drop it in the mail. I'm just asking. I mean,
you got to maintain chain of custody.
I didn't realize all
You got to
this.
make sure that when that evidence leaves you, when it arrives there, that
man,
there's nothing that could have happened.
I'm on the outside looking in. I don't realize all these things. There's so many steps that you don't realize here.
Yeah.
What's the timeline here
Well,
to get answers?
it varies. It's certainly, I know, it's not as fast as we would hope.
It's
a lot
not
of times.
in an hour. Like
No,
TV.
absolutely not. But the state lab specifically does analysis for every jurisdiction in the state of North
I
Carolina.
can't even imagine how many that would be.
Right, so it's easy to get on the backlog or
thousands.
behind. So
Yes,
it's hard. It's
absolutely.
hard to be mad about it. But
Right.
a lot of times that backlog can be a year, 2 years, depending on what it is. And if they have a piece of evidence here that's on something that's I want to say less serious, because all crimes, but
Right.
a less serious crime than this particular homicide or something that's coming in, they're gonna have to triage
They
that.
triage. Well, that makes sense. I mean, it does, though. Not only does this affect the victim's family, but it affects you guys because, I mean, this is fresh in your mind. You're wanting answers. I mean, people don't understand. There's one case right after another. I don't know how you guys keep them straight sometimes. It has to be so. But then when you have to sit back and wait on more information to come back and you have no control over when that comes in, and that has to be flustering. I am not a patient person. So I'm just being honest. I am not a patient person, and I want answers now. So, I mean, and that's just my mentality, and it's hard whenever you're waiting on someone else.
Well, and that's it. We
And no
want-
control whatsoever.
We want them now, but we're
Right.
at the mercy of
Right.
these things, and they take time.
Yes.
So
Gotcha.
And when a family's wanting justice like that, and a lot of times
We
working,
want justice.
Yeah,
The
we
whole
do.
Police department, the
yeah.
city, the community.
Yeah,
I mean,
we do. Yeah. And then and I've worked with a lot of families that they're like, I need this, and I'm like, it's a process, and I hate to tell them like, hey, it's a process, and they don't understand it because I want things to work out, but it does kind of with the timing with the state lab, it kind of not affects the investigation, but it doesn't give people the answers that they always want.
Of course,
at the
well,
time.
it does affect the investigation, just simply in that you're attacking that case with your whole heart at that particular moment. But if it takes a year for that evidence to come back, you've got 365 days of cases that have followed that now you're also
between,
trying to attack.
Yep.
So it does affect those things. We have started using some private labs, especially on our homicide cases.
Yep.
Just that way we're getting more expedient results. But I will say this, it is... that is a very pay-to-play system.
Oh, I'm sure.
So, you have to make sure that you stay within the confines of your budget and things of that nature.
Absolutely.
So it's challenging. And we can always work outside the realm if we have. Luckily, we don't have a lot of homicides in Statesville, so
Thank you.
we
That's good to
have
know.
a great amount of budget to throw at that. But especially in some of these recent homicide cases, we've just bypassed the state lab because we need to
Understood.
get those results a little bit faster on cases that are that serious and that are that important to us.
That makes sense. That makes
Yeah.
sense. All right.
So, can you share any advice for individuals who are interested in pursuing a career in the criminal the criminal investigations area? What would you tell somebody to come on and join your team?
Come on. At Statesville, we're always looking for the next generation law enforcement officer.
Yeah.
I will say most of our investigators currently they've all cut their teeth on patrol. That's, they started there, laid a really good foundation of criminal law
Right.
and how things work, and then they moved up to investigations, and they either stay there or they find out what's next. I did the same thing. I went to investigations, and I ultimately went to leadership, but some stay in investigations
Right.
forever. They love it.
Right.
We do ride-alongs. We do them on patrol. I'd be willing to accommodate those in investigations. Some days it's going to be boring, depending on which
Yeah.
day you pick.
Yeah.
It may be a lot of sitting in the office, but we're willing to accommodate that. We have our Citizens Academy as well that goes over patrol and over investigations that you can kind of interact and meet us and see how we do things.
Right.
Come immerse yourself in it. If there's something you're interested in, come see what it is, come see how it feels, and let us either hook you or turn you away from
Right,
it.
right.
Because law enforcement it's a challenging career to stay in. It's either a calling or sometimes it'll drive you away. And in my 14, 15 years, I've seen a lot of people come and stay for 2 weeks, and I've seen a lot of people stay for 2 decades.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's especially for our young folks, though. I would say this: I always advocate for higher learning. The state requires you to be at least 20 before you can enter BLET. So there's a 2-year stopgap there between 18 and 20.
Right.
Why not go ahead and start a degree in criminal
Yeah.
justice?
There you
If
go.
Sure.
this is your
Yes.
calling, go ahead and start it and be halfway through the process before you ever come to us.
Right.
And not advocating, but Mitchell's right here. They offer
Absolutely.
the courses
Yeah.
locally. I mean, and
And they have BLET, so you can just
that's
kind of
right. Just kind
get
of
it done.
transitioning from one to the other, and then, I'm pretty sure that the city will pay for your BLET. Is that correct? We pay for people to go to school.
We have the recruits program, which is Chief Only created that. So I bet it's probably been 6-7 years ago. We'll pay for you to go through BLET. That wasn't an option when I went through, so I had to work a part-time job and go to BLET.
Wow.
It was challenging, but
That's good.
these new guys and gals can come in and they can get paid while they're there. And at the same time, you're meeting us. You're kind of involved in the department. It's a great opportunity.
That's a win totally.
Great
I mean,
opportunity for sure.
for real.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so we're going to go back to this. How can the community best support the Statesville Police Department in efforts to keep the city safe? I mean, what are you thinking here? I mean, again, see something, say something. We all know this. We advocate for that.
Right.
But I mean, just when it comes to these things, I mean,
Again, I think it's interaction. Again, you folks know your neighborhoods and your communities better than I ever will, than my team ever will, than my officers ever will. If something doesn't look right, or somebody's there that's not supposed to be, or something's going on, let us know, and let us look into it. And I think one of the things I've heard consistently over my years in law enforcement is, well, I didn't want to be a bother. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
right, better to tell it ahead of time, maybe stop a crime from happening, from you guys having to come
Right.
out and investigate, maybe get patrol out there and deter something.
Right. Well, one of the things too, not only that, the deterrence, but a lot of times we come out on, hey, this person's walking around the neighborhood, never seen him before.
Right.
He's carrying some, backpack or something. We go out there and speak with them. We do what we call a field interview, and turns out they were involved in all of these other things. But we might not have known that person's name or who they were, what
Right.
they looked like, or what they were carrying, until somebody gave us a call.
Gotcha.
But that's not only that, so if it's a quality of life issue, if
right.
this is going on, that's going on, we have the district captain program. We have Captain Carmona and Captain Hamby, whoever those district captains. Give us a call and let us try to figure out a solution. I can't always promise a pretty solution immediately, but we're always willing to try to see, what we can figure out to help citizens really love living here and feel safe in our communities.
Well, I have one question I'm going to spring on you.
Okay.
All right. So tell us about juvenile crime. Are we still seeing high numbers of juvenile crime since summer? I know we just went back to school, so I figure we're praying if it is up, it'll drop back down, because summer is always the high time
Right.
for crime. I mean, kids don't have anything to do. They're mischief. I mean, mischievous. I mean, I was an angel, so I mean,
Right, of course. Me too. Absolutely, me too.
Absolutely.
never got in any trouble. Not with the law, but
It ebbs and flows. It really does. It ebbs and flows. In the past, it was more consistent when school was in, the juvenile crime dropped. And then, of course, when school let out, it skyrocketed. That's still, to a certain degree, fairly true. We still see some bouts, especially with social media. Any time
goodness.
that there's some sort of social media issue, there'll be a spike for a short period of time. So that's just kind of what we're seeing there. I wouldn't say that it's on our target as a main priority right now. Luckily, we've really dealt with some of the major issues lately that we've dealt with. We made an arrest in the downtown break-ins and those types of things.
that was a great thing. Yeah.
We're still vehemently working on some of these open homicides, but there's not one particular trend at this moment that's got our complete attention, especially juvenile. So,
Well, I mean, we did have a bout with it for a while.
Oh, absolutely.
But I just want to kind of touch base on.
And as much as I hate to say it, it's cyclical. We'll probably deal with a bout of it again. But bringing Nikayla in, as she does a lot with the youth, tries to keep our thumb on the pulse of what's going on there. You talked about Sergeant Shins. He's been on a previous podcast. He's excellent at kind of knowing that. One of my sergeants, Sergeant Wolf, they just know what's going on all the time. So we try to get ahead of it. We try to be proactive and not let it get to a point.
Nikayla's in the process of writing me a new dictionary of words, so I know what my kids are talking about.
She needs it.
Because she hears them, and I guess you have to ask them what they mean as well. But then you have to come and tell me. So yes, we understand
I'm
about
going to get us a book, and we're
Yes,
going to make it. Yeah, I'm telling you,
We're
I've
gonna make
learned
it
some
big.
new words this week, and I'm like,
By the time we have a target in Statesville, we're going to have a book written.
we're going to have a book.
Get a
Watch.
podcast word of the week.
Yeah, we up. Come on, we got
yeah,
this.
that'll be fun.
We're gonna have a target and a book written for juvenile. I mean, youth. That's it. That's it. That's gonna be. That's the future.
One more question, and I'm going to let you get out of here. Cold cases.
Okay.
We still have maybe 50. No, those are homicides. But cold cases, we basically are talking about homicides, right? When you talk about
For
a
the
cold
most
case.
part, I mean, it's kind of synonymous.
And are you guys investigating any of those right now? I know a while back we had a couple of guys come in that were retired investigators and were looking at some of those cases and actually solved one of them. One or two? It was one.
For one for certain, I know. of.
Okay. Do you still look at those?
Absolutely.
So if someone is ready to talk, as you say, you're here. You're ready
All
to
day.
listen.
All day.
I mean, maybe 20 or 30 years ago, they weren't ready to say, hey, I saw this
Right.
or that. But now the conscience is getting them just, okay.
Yeah, we still have. They're not actively working on it every day. They're helping a lot of those retirees that we bring
Right.
back. They're helping us with backgrounds, different things.
Okay,
but,
gotcha.
We're constantly looking at them. And if this person runs the room, we'll kind of switch them around. Hey, will you put a fresh set of eyes on this? So
You never know.
we don't really give up on those things, but
I gotcha. That was one of my questions that I had
Absolutely.
forgotten to tell you about. So thank you for joining us
Weird.
today. Is
Thank
there
you so
anything else you want to tell our community, our residents, about the Statesville Police Department? Not just the investigations division. I know you love this department. You've told me you're very dedicated, and
Right.
I know you are. So anything else you'd like to say?
we're here. Use us however you need us. If there's something that you need, don't ever feel like you're bothering us by giving us a call. If there's any way that me or my agency can help you, all you got to do is reach out.
Thank you again, Nikayla. As always, it's been a blast.
It's been a blast.
All right, and we'll see you guys next time.
Tune in to the next episode as we share our dedication to transparency, public service, and governance, shining a spotlight on our commitment to keeping you well informed about all things City of Statesville.